How do you write a blog that sells, and where do you find high-paying content writing clients? Hi, my name is Olivia, a content writer, and I've been doing this for the last 10 years. So obviously, I know a thing or two about working online as a content writer. And in this video, I'm going to take you through the process of writing a quality blog, a blog that most clients are willing to pay for. And I know you're probably here because you want to make money online as a content writer. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's get started. A blog is a non-promotional piece of content that most businesses use to either educate or entertain their target audience. Sometimes they use it for both reasons. And I love to think of blogs as simple pieces of content that are just designed to communicate a specific message. For example, maybe the company sells summer dresses, so they could have you write a blog about tips for choosing the right summer dress, or how to pack when you're traveling to a holiday in Hawaii. You see, simple pieces of content, and you can think of it as you having communication or conversation with your friend, and maybe your friend asks you about something. So, Olivia, what do I pack when I'm traveling to a place like Mombasa? So you're going to give them tips. This is exactly what a blog does. It's just to provide the tips, to provide the message. Before you write any blog, it's very important for you to take some time to understand your target audience, because if you do not know who you're writing this blog for, you're likely to miss the point, or it's going to be very hard for you to connect with them and provide value. Let's say your client does counseling and they want you to write a blog about signs of mental health issues. So before you sit down to write about signs of mental health issues, ask yourself, who is going to read this article, or who am I writing this article for? So in the case of mental health, it could be somebody who suspects they have a mental health issue, or maybe their loved one. They're looking at this person and they're like, okay, this person is not behaving so well. Probably they have a mental health issue. So let me go on Google to figure out if this guy has mental health issues. So once you know who you're writing this article for, it's going to be very easy for you to craft that message directly to them. We live in the AI age, and tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, they are making our lives, content writers, so much easy. Like, you can just take your blog, put it on ChatGPT, and you have it in seconds. But as somebody who's just getting started, that is the last thing that you want to do, because when it comes to ChatGPT, garbage in, garbage out. When you give it garbage prompt, it's going to give you garbage output. And that's why it's very important for you to know how to research. And by research, I mean, if you're writing about something like mental health, take time to figure out the studies, the statistics, the critical points that you want to include in your article. Note them down so that you can have a powerful prompt when you're using AI tools. And just to add on that, if you do not know how to prompt AI tools like ChatGPT and Gemini, I'm going to leave a link in the description box where I'm taking you guys through step by step how to write a very good prompt that will allow you to get great outputs. Once you have that out of the way, you can now move ahead and write your blog. And like I've said, you can use AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini to write your blog, but you can also write it manually. It all depends on your preference. Both work fine, but if you're going to use AI, make sure that you know how to prompt it. If you're going to write it manually, you better be very good with your grammar, very good with your thought process. Let me just say, AI makes it very easy for you to write a good blog, but you must know how to instruct it. Anyway, this is how the blog structure looks like. You're going to start with the heading, and note that if you have a client, they're going to give you one. If you do not have a client and maybe you're just creating your sample, then you need to pick a topic. If you love writing about travel or sports or beauty, you can pick a topic in that niche. So your topic could be something like tips for packing for your next safari, something like that, okay? Then you're going to move on to the introduction. And this is where the magic happens. Remember, if your introduction is boring, nobody is going to read the whole article. So the intention is to make your introduction as appealing as possible. And there are very many different structures that you can use. and I think it's best if we just head over straight to my computer so that I can show you in 3D like what you need to be doing. Alright, so this is our article and it's about signs of mental health issues. So before I start writing, I'm going to ask myself, who am I writing this article for? And in this case, I'm going to target the loved one of somebody who is struggling with mental health issue, or someone who suspects that their loved one has a mental health issue. And of course, like I said, the structure of an article starts with the heading, then the introduction follows. So when you're writing the introduction, you need to keep in mind that the introduction is very critical. It is what keeps the reader engaged, and it's what determines whether or not the reader is going to engage with the article. So you want to make it very appealing, and a good way to do that is you can use this formula called PASS. Okay, PASS stands for problem, P is problem, and then A stands for agitate, S stands for solution. So if you do not know how to go about this, always think about such a framework. So you start with a problem, like in this case, signs of mental health issue. The problem could be this loved one suspects that their loved one has a mental health issue. So you could start with something like, do you suspect that your loved one has a mental health issue? And then you can say mental health issues can make someone not be able to accomplish their task. It can make someone irritable and whatnot. So you've stated the problem and you have agitated it. And then you can say, but below we are going to discuss signs of mental health issues, so that if you notice them in your loved one, you can go ahead and seek help. That is the PASS framework. So keeping that in mind can help guide you towards writing a very well done article. Alternatively, you can also use another framework called AIDA. We have so many frameworks. These are just examples. In AIDA, you start with something that is attention grabbing. A stands for attention, and then I stands for interest, D stands for desire, and A stands for action. So you're going to start with something that grabs their attention, and this could be a startling statistic. Something like when you go on Google, the other time I had searched, these are statistics. Something like it is estimated that more than 1 in 5 US adults live with mental health issues, right? So you can start with such a study. Like if you suspect your loved one has a mental health issue, you're not alone. In America, we have 1 in 5 people struggling with such cases of mental health issues, right? And then interest, you can say something like, and the good thing is there's help. Okay, so just try to captivate their interest or capture their interest. And desire, and finally you can finish with action. Below we are going to discuss a couple examples of mental health issues. The key here is to make sure that the introduction is very appealing, because your introduction can make or break the whole article. If it's boring, nobody is going to read the whole article, but if it's appealing, they're going to want to keep reading. Alright, so this is our intro, and I have used ChatGPT to write the intro for demonstrations reasons, and I have started with a statistic to grab the reader's attention. Now we're going to move on to the next part, which is the main part of the article, and it's the body. The body is the main part of the article, and it's where you communicate whatever it is the topic promised. In this case, our topic promised signs of mental health issues. So we're going to cover those in the body, okay? And because the body is going to be pretty long, we are going to divide it into parts using subheadings. So each sign is going to be a subheading. And for us to know the signs, because I'm assuming you don't already know the signs, what you're going to do next is some research to establish what these signs are. So we're going to go on Google and search for signs of mental health issues, and we can open a couple of sources. So I can open this source. I'll open another source. I always prefer to open a couple of sources. 3 or 4 sources should be good to go. But if you're not familiar with the topic, I would highly encourage you to open even 10 sources, because you need to get a cross-sectional feel of what you need to be writing about. That's pretty important. Let's open the first source and have a look at what they're writing as the signs. You can see that they're saying some signs are feeling sad, confused, extremely moody, wherever. Let's have a look at the other source. Okay, They're saying substance abuse, feeling guilty, suicidal thoughts, feeling excessively high, and the last source. So clearly they're just talking about the same things, right? Meaning our article is also going to be more or less the same. But of course, I love rewriting my subheadings so that they don't look like the sources that I researched from. Basically, I just don't want to look like I copied. Okay, so I'm going to write down my outline. These are the signs that I'm going to be working with. Now, when you're writing your content, your goal is to expound or to explain these points better so that the person reading can understand. Like here, the sign is changes in mood or behavior. So you're going to explain a bit about how a person with mental health issue is likely to maybe portray some changes in mood and behavior. What I always do is I research each subheading individually. So this is basically what I would do. I would copy a subheading like this, for example, and go on Google and just research something like how does mental health issues cause changes, something like that, cause changes in sleeping or eating patterns. And then now I'm going to get topics or blog posts that are covering that specific subheading in detail. So case in point, like here, you can see they're saying mental health and sleep. Okay, sleep and mental health. So if I open this source, I'm going to get a bigger explanation compared to if I decided to maybe use my research sources, the initial ones, as my sources of research. Clearly, the pointers that they've given, they're very thin and I cannot get substantial information. So I would come and get my information from a different research source. And what I love doing is I would go to ChatGPT and ask it to summarize or to extract the main points here, and then I would go ahead and write it in my article. So I would do the same for all subheadings, and basically this is what I would end up with. This is the article, and you can see that I have now explained each sign in detail, just some detail depending on the word count. If the article was very long, then I would go deeper, but if it's shorter, then the explanation would be somewhat shallow. So I've explained each subheading, and you can see that I've formatted my work very nicely. The sentences are short and easy to read. That's very critical, okay? And finally, now we have a conclusion and we have a CTA, me recommending for the person to go to XYZ Rehab for personalized help. In the end, you can add a conclusion, and I love to think of conclusion as your takeaway. Please don't repeat whatever it is you've already said up there. Just go straight ahead and give your 2 cents. Like, there you have it, tips to pack for your safari, okay? Something as simple as that should suffice. And also, the most important part of your conclusion is something we call a call to action. And a call to action, this is where you tell the reader what you want them to do. Like after reading the blog, remember the blog is non-promotional, but in the call to action, you can tell them to go check out what your client offers. You can tell them to go ahead and read other blogs. You can tell them to subscribe, like anything that you want, any action that you want the reader to take, you can add it in the call to action. So something like, if you're planning to go on a safari and you do not know where to get started, then this company can help you plan and also take you to those places, something like that. Or maybe if you wish to learn more about safari experiences, you can click on this blog to learn more. Okay, so that is what we call a call to action. Once you're done writing, it's time to do edits, and this is where you want to be very ruthless, because the last thing you want is to submit work with errors, typos to your client. So take time to do the editing. And what I always encourage my students is, once you're done writing, step aside, go do something else, then come back when you're fresh. That way you are able to pick up on small things that you missed while you're writing. And also when you're reading, make sure that you're reading it out aloud, because it allows you to see sentences that are hard to read. It also makes it easy for you to see typos, okay? Read it out aloud. That's a tip, note it down. Tools like Hemingway app and Grammarly can also help you with editing and can also check how hard or how easy your work is to read. So I would highly encourage you to use them. For Grammarly, you have to use the premium version to be able to get the most out of it. But for Hemingway app, you can always check the readability score free of charge. So yeah, go give them a try. Don't forget about SEO or search engine optimization, because remember, your blog is going to go online, it's going to go on Google, and if you do not optimize it, then it's never going to be found. And a good way to optimize your article is to make sure that it is very well written, it is high quality, and it provides value. But in addition to that, there are other things that you can add on your article, like images, alt text, meta description, links, keywords. Word count is critical as well, but if you're working with a client, that is usually beyond your control, because your client is going to tell you the number of words that you need to be writing. But if you're doing a blog for yourself, then you want to take time to see what others, the people who are ranking like top spots of search engines, how many words they've used, and you can use that as the benchmark. So let's say maybe the people who are ranking have written like 200 words, you want to write something like 250 words. If they've written 3,000, then you want to write 2,800 to around 3,500, so that you have the same competitive advantage on Google. For work, we have several ways that you can use to find blog writing or content writing clients. You can use freelancing marketplaces like Upwork. We have Fiverr, and LinkedIn is also a good place because they have a board that posts different content writing opportunities. You can also decide to cold pitch, which is where you reach out to clients and just propose your value, tell them that, hey, I'm a content writer, in case you're looking for someone like me, here are my samples, here is my portfolio, and I'm available to work. It works. Most of the freelancers, in fact, the best freelancers in the marketplaces, use cold pitching as a way of finding work. Next, we have accounts, and these are very good. In fact, they're the easiest way to like make money as a blogger or as a content writer. And great examples include Text Broker, Verblio, Way with Words, I think. We have Scripted, we have Zeries, and very many other options. But the thing that you need to keep in mind is that most of these accounts are usually location sensitive. So if you are from a location that is maybe bad, or you're not able to access the account, then you can go ahead and ask your relatives who live in the countries that are accepted in those accounts. Okay, and lastly, this is the hill that I'm willing to die on, is branding. So you can just decide to create your own blog, so a freelancing blog, and talk about your services, talk about the benefits of hiring a freelancer, talk about things related to freelancing. Eventually, once your blog has grown, you're going to be able to now start attracting people to you. So as opposed to you going out, people are going to come to you. It's like you're playing defensive now. And other ways to brand yourself is using social media platforms. I know most of you guys know me through social media platform, and it's because I've decided to put myself out there. So as a content writer or as a blogger, you can also decide to put your face out there. I know it's slightly uncomfortable, but when it comes to making money, you either have to decide between money and shy. And I think money is better. Personally, that's what I decided, and I hope that you're going to decide that as well. So that's all for today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.